Welcome. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. It's Wednesday, and you are happily tuned in to the I'm Making It Happen radio show on the Reef 103.5 FM with exceptionally yours, Nykole Tyson. And we are here on Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. And on I'm Making It Happen, we discuss how we can make it happen in our minds, bodies, finances, business, and culture, despite the inevitable and not so pleasant challenges. And that's to ultimately allow us to realize that we can shift our mindsets and that we have the power to improve and maneuver every and any situation that we encounter. And today, I'm always excited when we have a guest. We have Dr. Dara Hamilton. She's a psychologist, and she's her. She's been on the show many times, and we're going to be talking about dealing with life as is, and we'll be sharing or discussing a personal testimony to inspire the community and all those who's tuned in. Before we get into the details, I want to say good morning to everyone in the USVI, St. Croix, St. Thomas, St. John, the British Virgin Islands, St. Kitts and Nevis, anywhere you're in the Caribbean. Good morning to you. Those listening live on reefbroadcasting.com from the east to west coast. We appreciate you for tuning in. It's getting warmer in the States, so, I know you're happy about that. And those watching live on Facebook or Instagram, good morning to you. You can find us at I'm Making It Happen on Instagram and on Facebook. And so, as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about dealing with life as is. And we have Dr. Dara Hamilton. She's a psychologist, and we've had her on many times. She's no stranger to the show, and we've talked about various ways like mental health, and we've talked about resilience and the like. Over the time period. But today, we have the privilege of speaking with Dr. Hamilton, whose strength and positivity has been an inspiration to myself, and I'm sure to many others. And she's navigated a challenging journey of a double mastectomy, and continues to be actively involved in various events and activities despite, I'm sure, the physical and emotional hurdles. And her story is one of resilience. And today we'll talk about how she has maintained such a positive outlook and stayed so progressive through it all. And I was just very inspired because when I hadn't spoken or I hadn't seen you in a while. Oh, good morning to you first.
Oh, good morning, Nykole, and everyone out there.
Oh, welcome. And when I first saw you was at an event that you invited me to be a part of over the holidays.
Mm-hmm, the Christmas boat
parade. And I didn't recognize you at first, right? And you were like, I'm right here, and I'm like, oh, you lost some weight. You look good. And
yes.
then you just bluntly said, oh, I lost weight. I look different because I had a double mastectomy.
Right. I said I lost some weight, and I may have said I lost the girls or something like that.
Yeah. And something like that. And I was like, what do you mean, girls? I think you only have a boy. And then a son. And then you explained to me, and I was like, oh my gosh. Mm-hmm. I said, really? But you were so upbeat. Like you wasn't phased, and you just kept it moving. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, we are in the second month of the year, and there's so many things going on, and, every challenges, frustrations, different things people experience on a daily basis, right? That can take them off of their goals and just feeling like progressive and positive.
Right.
And so I thought of you because I realized I continue to see different posts on Facebook and different social media platforms just about, dealing with life. And so, just like how they talk about when you buy a car or you're selling a used car or something, it says selling as is. Mm-hmm. I was like, we have to deal with life as is, it's sold as is. And I thought of you. And I was like, we were going to talk about mental health. And I was like, oh, can we share? Can we talk about this? Is this something? Mm-hmm. And you were like, sure. Mm-hmm. And so you're very inspiring. I just want to say.
Thank you.
And I want to I said, I wanted to know your secret of how you're dealing with life. So we're talking, we have Dr. Dara Hamilton. And so, we've talked about like in theory situations of how to deal with, but we're going to talk about actuality and how, and get some tips, some strategies from her, from Dara on what she's been dealing with, And so, so thank you for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. I always feel like it's an honor to be on your show. You always inspire the community. You're always very intentional about how you organize the show, and it is my pleasure to be here and my honor to be with you.
Thank you so much. Yes, the point, I always want to make an impact, and hopefully lead individuals better off than what they started off for the day. And it's the midweek, and so we all need it, you know. And I really appreciate sharing, because that's what we need more of. Because people need to know, like, you know, we all have issues. How are you getting through it? You know, and like
okay, so right. Tell me where you want to start.
And so, just like I'm talking about you, but I'm just plural.
Right. How do we make it through it?
Because it looks easy for everybody, you know. But everybody has something that they're dealing with.
Right.
And so I just want to mention this before I go into details, like, you know, just the life issues, like life challenges are something we all face. So just prefacing that, at some point and every day, whether it's health struggles, which we're going to talk about today, personal losses, or even just the everyday pressures that come with living. And what's important is recognizing that challenges are a part of the journey, not the end of it. And the key is to approach them when it feels over. The key is to approach them with resilience and a mindset of growth, which we're going to talk about, you know, what that mindset and resilience looks like and how you can tap into that. And it's about finding strength. How do you find the strength? We're going to talk about that too, in regards to the adversities that we experience, and even when it feels overwhelming. So it's okay to lean on others for support and to give ourselves grace in the process. And the most important thing is to keep moving forward, one step at a time, 1 second at a time, sometimes, you know, 1 minute at a time. And to remember that strength does not always mean having all the answers. Actually, strength doesn't mean having all the answers. It means that, you know, you have the courage to keep moving, and then enlisting in, there's a word I keep forgetting to use, but, you know, embracing other people to assist you, right? And so, like I said, we have been talking with Dr. Hamilton today, and she experienced double mastectomy, and so just want to get into her. And she's been so positive, and she's been involved in so many things, continuing to push forward. So she's an inspiration to me, making it happen. That's, you know, definitely making it happen. And so, can you share a little bit about your journey leading up to, you know, finding out?
Sure. So of course, I will preface this with the idea that the mastectomy was not elective, right? So some people do elect to have a mastectomy in a way to prevent cancer, or maybe for other reasons. I will say that I was diagnosed with cancer December 19th, 2023, right? And then the double mastectomy happened January 18th, 2024. Okay.
Oh, so wait, right. December 2023? And then the next month?
The next month, right. And so the process moved pretty quickly. I had a mammogram, I believe it was October. It was October, November, December. October was a mammogram. November was an ultrasound. December was a biopsy and also diagnosis. And then January was the surgery. And part of the reason why it moved so quickly was because, you know, as you know me, Nykole, I am very intentional. I tend to address things head on. I tend to be very radical, what they call radical acceptance. Right. This is what's happening. We're going to deal with the thing that is happening, accepting life as is. Okay. And so, in fact, I had always thought, you know, if I was diagnosed with breast cancer, that I would make that decision to have a double mastectomy. So when I was diagnosed, it was something that I had already decided to do even before I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
Did you have an inkling that could be a possibility?
I have, you know, when I went for a biopsy, it was the 4th biopsy that I've had in my lifetime. And so I felt that, I don't know if it does legitimately increase the chances that you're going to eventually be diagnosed with cancer, but it was always a thought in my mind when I'd go for a mammogram, or even in college, I had my first biopsy. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, because I had fibrocystic breasts, and so they tend to be very, very dense. They tend to have like more lumpy, right, and so on. And so it was always the question of what's happening with my breasts, what's going on with them. And so if I did go for a mammogram, typically they'd say you need to go for an ultrasound, and then ultrasound may lead to a biopsy. So it was something I'd experienced before. And so this particular time, though, when I went for the biopsy, I noticed that the doctor wasn't saying things that he had said before in the previous biopsies. I was like, there's something going on here. And I felt that, you know, it probably is cancer. So I felt that way before they ran the pathology and before they made the diagnosis. I was like, it's probably cancer. So I pretty much knew a week before because of his demeanor in the actual biopsy. And I had already decided that if I did have cancer, I would do a double mastectomy. I met with the surgeon on January 8th, and we did surgery on January 18th. So that may feel very quick for most people. For me, I felt like, I want it out. I want it out of my body, and I am very clear about how I want to approach getting it out of my body.
Wow. First of all, I want to mention, go back to what you said, radical acceptance. Mm-hmm. So have you been like that with everything in your life? So as and to qualify that statement, like radical acceptance, like, okay, like you said, dealing with, like we've said, dealing with life as is. Okay, this is what it is. Not really getting very emotional about it. What is the next steps?
Correct. Radical acceptance is the idea of confronting things as they are without trying to wish them away, hope them away, explain them away, find some way around, or, I guess leaning into denial. Instead of leaning into denial, leaning into, no, this is what it is, and what are we going to do about it? Yes, I have practiced that a lot across my lifetime. I may or may not have said this on the show, but I was a very shy child. Right. And so I felt like most of my growing up has been acts of courage, acts of acceptance, radical acceptance. If there's something that I needed to do, I had to really put myself out there to do it. Okay. And so it's definitely been a practiced skill for me over time. And it tends to be the way I prefer to approach life is let's just deal with the thing that's in front of us. I think that you have more power when you do that. You execute your power. You execute your decision-making skills when you do that. And you have more control over what happens to our lives. Instead of letting things happen to us, we decide how we're going to deal with the thing that's in front of us.
You couldn't have said it any better in regards to basically that's how I envision making it happen. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't always come out that way. Mm-hmm. Like, you kind of wallow and, how it should not be, how it should be, what it could be. And like I really love the terminology radical acceptance, and how you went about dealing with the situation. I mean, because in small terms, yeah, you can have radical acceptance, but in regards to that, what was the thought process? Was it just instantaneous that you were like, okay, well, this is what it is, I'm going to do that? Was there any time that you felt like upset about the situation, or
absolutely. I mean, I still feel upset about the situation, so I don't want to give the impression that this means that it was that everything was just easy peasy. There were no challenges across the process. There were challenges. I mean, it's a big thing, and our body and our mind know that this is a big thing. Part of the bigness of it, I know, is what has been cultivated in us to some degree. We grew up, or at least myself, my generation, I think maybe I was on the tail end of it. I hope I was on the tail end of it, of a time when things like cancer were things that you didn't talk about. That was sort of hush. We keep it in the back room. You don't see people who are ill or who have been diagnosed. And then there's all this sort of mystery around it, and all this fear, and maybe there was a lot of shame around it, and so on and so forth. And I committed to, no, that's not going to be my experience in this. That's not going to be my experience. It can be a big thing. It can be a hard thing. It can be an anxiety-provoking thing. But the other stuff is not going to be part of what I'm going to bring into my mind, my body, and my life during this experience. So definitely there were hard parts of it. And, I'm happy to talk about what the difficulties were with that. Just basically some adjusting to the idea of, oh, wow, this is something that's in me that I am carrying around with me that I can't get rid of right now, that I have to wait to get rid of, was anxiety provoking. And then, of course, not knowing what the results of the pathology would be, what type of cancer, whether it's spread, all of those types of questions, of course, creates some form of anxiety. It wasn't to the point that it overwhelmed my ability to do my activities, however. Right. So I still played tennis. I still danced. I still, as far as I was concerned, with the anxiety, I was still pretty happy, after diagnosis. I slept okay, like for the first week after, I was like fine. I have some gastrointestinal stuff. So that sort of flared up at different times. But beyond that, I felt like, okay, I'm handling this. I felt like it was being handled.
Wow. Okay, great. And so there's a comment here say, Blessed Wednesday. May the Lord continue to keep her healthy.
Thank you.
And by God's grace, this Alma declares your healing, and may the joy of the Lord be with her strength. And thanking you for sharing your experience with us.
I appreciate that.
Another comment here says, Good morning, brave lady, accepting what we cannot change, hoping and praying for total healing.
Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's one of the anxieties that continues, of course, is it going to come back? You know, those are always questions, I think, for people who have been diagnosed with cancer at some point. That becomes the fear is, will it return? And what will that look like? So I thank you guys for all of the prayers. I accept them. I welcome them into my body.
Yes, and these are comments on Facebook. And so, yes, and I feel like you have the mind is powerful. I always say mind over matter. Mind over medicine as well. And so just the way that you've been handling it, and like you said, you were able to sleep, continue your daily activities. I mean, that's mental fortitude. And I feel that is, that's been the biggest thing. I don't think I've ever used the terminology, but mental fortitude is basically what you have displayed.
It was a commitment to continuing to live my life, and a commitment to maximizing my life, right? That I refused to say I was going to lapse into some form of despair where I wasn't enjoying my life or that it wasn't meaningful. Like, to me, that just didn't make sense to be in that position. As long as I'm alive, I want to live my life. And so I'm going to do that. So it was truly a commitment to that perspective of, okay, we're just going to live. We're going to live our lives and see what happens, and we'll do the best that we can with whatever comes our way, and we can make decisions about that. We can make decisions about whatever happens to us.
So I love that. And one of the things when I started making it happen, when it was first on, just Facebook, that was one of my things that tapped into, people's, how they're pursuing life, and that how they're overcoming the challenges, because everybody has the challenges, but how, what challenges were you overcoming, and how are you doing that to keep moving forward? Because people see others saying, oh, that looks easy. It must be easy for her or him. And no, they have a lot of challenges, but it's a mindset. Where do you think you got that mindset from?
Whoa,
that's a heavy,
yes,
that's really strong.
It is a radical mindset. I feel like I do have a radical mindset, and it's hard to describe. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask my mom.
Okay.
Where did I get that from? Where did I get that radical perspective from? I do think it came to some degree from that experience of being pretty shy, as I said. And so everything was radical, and I learned to find my voice, and I learned to realize that, we're not safe in this world. I think Helen Keller has a quote about there's no security there's just no security in life. And life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all. And that's the truth. We keep trying to keep ourselves safe when the reality is, our efforts, eventually we will die. And so it's what we do in the meantime, in how we execute our power, how we find meaning, and how we live our lives in the meantime, that makes the difference. So I'm not sure where I got it from. I can tell you that my parents were pretty strong people. They have strong personalities, and so I wonder if it's a lot of their influence, and then also what I've decided to build for myself in terms of how I approach life.
Okay, I love it. Well, I think we've tapped into a couple of things, but I just want to just ask the questions though. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced, both physically and emotionally during that time?
Okay. Biggest challenges that I faced physically. It's interesting, the surgery, changes in your body after such a major surgery. The response of my body to that surgery was interesting. I think it's something that I wish in some way I could have been prepared for, because it created an interesting physical experience of being in a body that was so drastically changed. So, for example, I had huge sensation in my chest after the mastectomy. And that sensation was almost like I could feel everything trying to reconnect. I could feel all the nerves. I could feel absolutely everything. And it wasn't painful, but it was overwhelming. it's hard to distinguish between those two. It was overwhelming because there was so much attention to that area of my body, and that it was just constant sensation, interesting sensation, new sensation. It was, creepy sensation. It was just so much sensation. So that was physically challenging just because of the demand that it made on my body and also on my mind, and then not understanding, like, is this a normal process and what is happening? So I wish it would have, someone would have explained to me that can be an experience, but going through it was an interesting experience. Just from the inside, observing that experience was interesting. I can't say that it was unpleasant, but it was just, wow, look at all of this thing that's happening with me. After the mastectomy, I've always had like some gastrointestinal problems. They worsened after the mastectomy, so I'm sure that the medical trauma created more vulnerability for that, and so that really flared up. And that became the thing that was more disturbing physically, was managing that, because that did interfere with my sleep. That would wake me up in the middle of the night. And that was a huge, huge, huge struggle to go through in the context of having the mastectomy. I didn't have a lot of pain. I hated having drains. I can tell you that. That sucked. I hated not being able to do the things I wanted to do. For example, tennis. I love tennis, and I didn't get to dance. And then, like, you could like wash up, but you couldn't bathe. And I'm like, I love to bathe. I love to take a shower like twice a day. I love it. It's like one of those wakes you up, and also washing off the day. And it was just like, damn. So that was just for a few days though, but it felt like longer than that. Worries about how my body was healing, that popped up for me. Are the scars healing well enough? Like that kind of stuff. Sorry. So physically, those were the major issues. Learning when I could do things that I always used to do, but now haven't been able to do, was kind of challenging. And then this is kind of a thing that happens with people who've had mastectomies. I couldn't get my arms above my head for a while. They would just reach my shoulders, and I had to really work to get those above my head. And that was a challenge, but I did it. I would show you guys, but I don't want to flash you with my arms. Emotionally,
playing tennis, you have to get it above.
Well, oh girl, right? Yes, I did. I've gotten them above, especially from that serve, right?
Definitely.
So, emotionally, I again decided I would do a double mastectomy if this ever happened to me, if I was ever diagnosed. And so I did. And I committed to, I am going to like my body no matter what it looks like. I am going to feel good in my body. I'm going to appreciate my body. My body is going to be beautiful. I am going to feel sexy in my body. Like all of those things. I was like, that's going to be my relationship. That's a lot of the way I manage things is ahead of time. If this happens, yep, this is going to be how I'm going to handle it. And that's what I decided to do. And I feel like I've felt good about my body since then.
When I saw you in December, you were amazing.
Yeah.
I was like, I got that vibe.
I have felt good. I have felt good about my body. And so emotionally, that was less of an issue in terms of, oh no, I'm not a woman. I'm not beautiful. I'm not desirable. I'm not like those types of things. Those creep in to a small degree, but not in a major way that I, walk around feeling less than. I wear lots of fitted shirts and tank tops and stuff like that. I'm flat. But clothes were problematic. Like there were certain clothes fit differently now. There's certain clothes that I can't wear that I'd like to be able to wear, but they just don't fit my body in the same way they would fit if I had breasts. And then there was the loss of certain clothing and how I looked in those clothes. Like there were some clothes where I'm like, oh my God, I looked so hot with my breasts. Yeah. And without them, my clothes just don't fit the same way. And I feel like I lost that hotness in that clothing that I really liked and enjoyed wearing. So that was definitely an adjustment, trying to figure out how to deal with my clothing. I would say fatigue, like there was a lot of fatigue after the surgery, that healing part, and just a general sense of overwhelm that felt like it started in my body as opposed to starting in my mind. My mind's like, we're good. We're fine. We got this, right? But then the body was like, no, actually, we have had a major injury and
slow down. The body was telling you,
the body
your mind was like, I'm good. I'm ready to go.
My body was like, my mind was like, yeah, let's go. Let's go do all these things. We're good. And my body was like, no. Hold on, we're not. We're actually not. And so
let us catch up to you, right?
That was okay. Well, a little bit of a conflict.
Like I said, if you're just tuning in, this is Dr. Dara Hamilton. She's a psychologist. We've had her on the show many times to just give theory in regards to mental health and how to overcome challenges and push forward. And I felt like it was important to have the conversation that she actually applies these tips or strategies that she's actually given to the community on the show, and I'm sure to her clients as well. But it's just, I think, amazing, more than amazing, in regards to how you were able to deal with the situation. I wanted to give that perspective on dealing with life as is. Like, a lot of times, or I don't know about other people, but I am not the best at dealing with life as is at times,
Yeah, what makes you think that? Can I ask?
Because you get upset, I get upset, frustrated, and I have, it should be this way, it should be that way, and I get to an even keel at some point, to keep moving. But and that's to me on a small scale, because what you dealt with and what, maybe I think of that is a challenge or frustrating, doesn't equate.
Right. And well, no, it may. I mean, we all have, it doesn't equate. It's a big thing. Yeah. So I hear that you're recognizing the bigness of having been diagnosed with cancer and having gone through that experience. And I don't want to, just because I'm able to talk about it and weathered it, I don't want to give the impression that it wasn't difficult, right? Because I want us to know that feeling uncomfortable, feeling sad, feeling worried, feeling whatever our experience is, angry, despair, disappointed, like whatever it is doesn't mean that we are failing. And I think a lot of times we feel like because I'm going through these difficult emotions, it means I'm not handling it, or it means I'm not managing it, or whatever. I went through some difficult times, particularly with my stomach. There was a time that I would wake up in the morning and I would say, "Good morning, Vietnam," because it felt like a battle, right? And that's from that movie, Good Morning Vietnam, with Robin Williams. Because it felt like a battle, and it was particularly with my gut, more so than having to, my thoughts around the mastectomy or my thoughts around cancer, but I'm sure that interfered with it created some of those symptoms. So there were times where it was really a struggle. And I will say one of the things that was surprising was after I used to laugh for some reason. Listen, I have been happy these past few years. I have been happy. I used to laugh every day, laugh out loud, just really watching Instagram and stuff. People are so stupid and silly. And I'm like, they made the internet for me, because I was laughing my butt off.
But then medicine.
The medical trauma, I realized it had been 2 weeks and I hadn't laughed. After the surgery, and it's but nothing has changed. I was laughing up to the surgery. Why is it? What's changed for me? So I think that physical trauma really did do something. We know that whatever is psychological is biological, and vice versa. Our body feeds signals back to our brain about how we feel and what's happening with us. And so, so there are things that I did have to struggle through. And I remember saying to one of my friends, I had very good friends, who came with me to appointments, who, did other things. And that, I can't remember something about not being able to find joy. I can't find joy, which was something that was surprising for me because I could always find it so clearly before. And she brought me a little vase of flowers and an orange, right? And she had tied some strings around it and a little note that said joy in the small things, and I still have that little note and whatnot. So yeah, it wasn't easy. So just because, I'll say to people out there, just because you're feeling sad or feeling angry or feeling frustrated or disappointed or whatever the emotional experience is, doesn't mean that we are failing.
And that's what I wanted to have the conversation, because when I say dealing with life as is, you're just a great example of a huge challenge, life altering challenge, and just the way that, I talk about it. I said in the intro all the time, despite the inevitable challenges, that we can have the ability to improve and maneuver any situation that we encounter. And so to me, you're the poster of that, right? For
Thank
me
you.
in this, and saying that, that that is a mindset, and so that we can train ourselves in regards to dealing with anything that we experience. And so I want to give that perspective to individuals tuned in today, or whenever you hear or see this, is that, among us we have individuals that we're all dealing with challenges in various degrees, and that we have the ability to progress, maneuver, pivot, and still be happy. Because like Dara said, you live in this life, and you can be happy while we live in it, and being active and making sure that you're staying connected with those you love and who love you. So
that's the goal. I mean, one of the things that I say to my classes sometimes at UVI, I try to always put some little benefit for them into the classes. So it's not just I'm sharing information with you, but this is how we can make the information applicable to your life. I tell them just what you said in your intro, never stop. Like, never stop going. Like, whatever it is, you just keep going. We don't shrink our lives because something has happened to us, because then our lives become smaller and smaller and smaller. You sometimes see this with people who have, let's say, a problem with anxiety. Then we stop doing the things that are anxiety provoking, and we continue to shrink and shrink and shrink, and then we end up having, we isolate, we stop, we end up with a very, very restricted life that ends up lacking meaning and fulfillment and so on, and joy and happiness. And it's just like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's a commitment to saying, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to live in a different way. No matter what's happening to me, we can do something about it.
Yes. And so, yeah, so you can tune in to I'm Making It Happen. This is Dr. Dara Hamilton. She's a psychologist. She's been on the show many times, giving tips to individuals, but we learn now, we got the, secret sauce of, how she applies it to herself and specifically to this personal experience. So we appreciate her sharing her testimony with us to, give us example of how we can maneuver challenges in our own life. And this is our own hero to me in the community, because she's been doing so much, continue to do so much in the community, from diagnosis until afterwards, right? And so we're going to take a break, and we get back, we're going to talk, we're going to lay out some like specific tips and, find out more on how she's been able to, continue, and some things that she's been doing to, support the community right now as well. Before we take the break, definitely want to remind you that Carlos Furniture, of course, is the number one furniture store in the territory, as well as, producing or assisting the BVI. So they're located in Tudor Park Mall, St. Thomas, Peter's Rest, St. Croix, open 7 days a week. Carlos Furniture have all of your items for your home. You can think of it decorative from the kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, living room, any of the essentials you need for your home. Check out Carlos Furniture. They'll meet or beat any price. As well as Quality Auto Parts is also open 7 days a week and located near Sunny Isles. And it's all in their name. They have the Quality Auto Parts, and I've heard they have the best prices on the island. So check them out. Quality Auto Parts right there near Sunny Isles. And you can also contact them at 340-778-5462. It's Quality Auto Parts. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back. You're listening to I'm Making It Happen with Nykole Tyson, and we have Dr. Dara Hamilton, psychologist, been on the show many times. If you're just tuned in, we were discussing, dealing with life as is, the challenges that we experience, and Dara is sharing her personal experience with having double mastectomy, and just how she was able to navigate that, decisions that she made to continue living her life powerfully. And I think she's a great example. Well, I don't think she is a great example for like how we can approach our lives, right? And whatever may come up that's challenging. Like there's a comment here online that says to Dara, she says, "You look fantabulous, and we must give God the glory for what He has done. Lord, forgive us when we complain." Exactly, right? And thanks again for sharing your experience with us. The joy of the strength be her strength continuously.
Thank you all.
And so, yes, definitely just putting things in perspective of life, and even with that situation, just in regards to like how you continue with your daily activities, with your routine. You didn't break it. and you just kept on as much as your body would allow. Correct. And then you've continued or returned to.
Yes, and I would definitely like to say there's so much to say about this journey, I have to tell you, but one of the most important things for me was to keep going. I said this to one of my friends last night over the phone. Like, you learned this from World War Z. Like, those who survive are the ones that keep moving. You have to keep moving. You have to keep moving. And
World War Z.
Yeah, it's a movie. It's a movie with Brad Pitt. I'm so sorry.
I gotta write these things
He said it to a family about the zombies that were coming, and he said, you know, what he learned from being in all these war zones was people who kept moving were the ones who were more likely to survive. And you know, honestly, I think that is important for us to keep moving in our lives. And so I did that, right? So it was the things that add meaning were things like work, my friends, my activities, and so on and so forth. So you remove all that from somebody, and then what reason is there for me to have my life anymore? You've taken all the meaning, all the reason out of living. And so it's important for us to, I think, for us to keep going, to keep striving, to do the things that are important and meaningful to us. It was important for me not to do things which some people suggested. We could do a show on what are unhelpful things to say to people, but right, which is like get in the bed, like, oh, you need to go in the bed and you need to just like lay in the bed and read and you need to rest and you need to, no, I need to keep moving. The reason why I couldn't lift my arms above my head after 5 days was not because anything happened to my muscles, because my muscles weren't touched. There was nothing wrong with my muscles. In fact, in the hospital, I asked the surgeon, Dr. Georges, shout out to Dr. Georges, wonderful, wonderful surgeon. She is amazing, amazing human being. And that I said, what about my range of motion? And she said, oh no, your range of motion is fine. Just don't jerk your arms. And I was just like, okay. But my mind still told me, no, you have to protect your body. So I kept my arms close to my side. 5 days later, I couldn't get them above my head. And that was because my muscles started to learn that, no, that's not something we do. So it reinforced for me the importance of us continuing to do activity. If we don't use it, we lose it. That we have to continue to live our lives. Otherwise, our body does start to die, for lack of a better word. Or lack of a better way to express that.
I appreciate that. And you did mention Dr. Georgia. She's amazing. She was one of the individuals that was very instrumental. My mom was in the hospital to making sure something was taken care of immediately. She doesn't remember, but I did remind her of it recently. I saw her a couple of weeks ago. But tell us about your experience. You wanted to mention about, you know, actually you had the surgeries on the island like you just mentioned.
I did.
What was your experience like?
The experience, well, was good. The operating room experience was great. And in fact, the thing that sparked that for me was the wonderful prayers that people are putting into the chat there, because I had a nurse who said, can I pray with you? I felt that was so reassuring, and I appreciate her so much for doing that. The other nurses were extraordinarily positive. Sometimes they shared information about their own experiences, having had similar surgery or other types of experiences with cancer. It was just, I felt very warm, very well cared for by that team. And I really appreciated that. The other benefit of having the surgery here, I'll tell you, was, you know, I recovered overnight in the hospital. Some of the nurses were students who had gone to UVI, you know. I'm like, oh, I think I taught that one in class, and so on. And so being able to be cared for by our local nurses and so forth was an important part of that journey. And being at home.
That was very helpful with your recovery, I'm sure, too.
I think so. I wanted to be at home because I wanted to be around things that were familiar, and it just like, so I stayed at home and did all of that. And then, of course, the support I feel like I got from Dr. Gallagher did the biopsy, and he actually called me to give me the results and talked with me about those. I felt very, very well supported by them.
Okay. And so great. Yeah, definitely. I do believe that we do have exceptional, you know, medical staff on the island, and, you know, we can improve in other areas. But overall, I mean, my experiences that I've had with my mom, and you just share with yours, we just need to keep adding to that, compounding on that, because it's better for us to stay on the island when we have certain medical issues. So as a psychologist, I was getting into your profession. As a psychologist, how have your experiences influenced your work with others who may be going through their own challenges? has this doubled down to be like, hey, this is what, that you have the real world experience.
Yeah.
We all have the daily experience every day, but this is like, I tell you, this is a major life challenge. So like, does it have you double down now to even be more passionate in your?
Oh, absolutely. In terms of my faith in the things that I ask people to do, and they are oftentimes such simple things, but the things that I had to engage very intentional coping because my systems were so overwhelmed. I had to cope intentionally, meaning I had to make decisions about what are we going to do that is going to help our body and our mind stay centered and balanced, regain center, regain balance. With respect to my gastrointestinal system, I changed my diet. That's why you see so much weight loss was a really big change to my diet, and that made the difference. I had restricted my foods, and I'm not giving any advice to restrict your food because you want to work with a nutritionist and so on and so forth. But I restricted my food intake to things that I cooked, first of all. Nothing that was processed, highly processed, and so on and so forth. So I was very intentional about how I took care of that system, and it did help me to regulate that system. I was also very intentional about, I did yoga. I did lots of yoga. I did yoga for digestion, first of all, but and that was the easiest thing to do because a lot of it was reclined and I didn't have to put any pressure on the areas that were still healing. And then I've evolved into continuing to do different yoga that is much more strenuous and that involves a lot more muscle work, which I couldn't do back then. But very intentional about I am going to do this. This is something that I know helps and I am going to do it. I was intentional about meditating. Sometimes I would meditate like 30 minutes a day and then also do yoga for 30 minutes a day.
Okay. Get your mind right.
Right, that's right. I was very intentional about doing that. And I did a lot of beach walks with my friends. So these are things that I recommend that people do to take care of their systems, and that sometimes we can dismiss and we can say, oh no, I just have to fix my mind. I just gotta get my mind right. I just have to do this. But how do you?
Yeah, exactly.
These are the hows. These are the hows. I'm telling you, these are the hows. These are the hows. So I did lots of beach walks with a friend of mine and got out into the sun, right? I ate lots of sea grapes.
Wow. I haven't had a sea grape in a while.
Yeah, I love sea grapes. So I use the strategies that I suggest that people use to help them calm their minds and calm their bodies and center and balance themselves. So I did them and they work.
Great. So you were active. You still did your exercises that was conducive for your your ability, for your body, yoga. You change your diet.
Mm-hmm.
You got out into the sun and the beach and breathing.
Definitely, I did breathing. Oh, I love this technique. I think it's 4-7-8. Is it 4-7-8, 4-5-8, or something like that? But I do 5-7-9. That you breathe in for a count of 5. I hold it for a count of 7, and I breathe out for a count of 9. And that's probably pretty long for most people if you don't do a lot of that type of work. But it's supposed to be like the most relaxing breath. And so I did a lot of breath work. I did some things, I did Qigong. Peter Stewart does that on Saturday mornings at the beach on the Palms. He probably still does it. And so I did Qigong.
What's Qigong?
It is like, I can't even describe it. It's like one of the Asian, Eastern sort of like Tai Chi, except it's Qigong. I don't know the difference between the two, but it's one of those types of things. I did that at home too because you can look up videos, so I did that at home as well. But I was very intentional about how I cared for my body and for my mind because I was committed and determined that I was going to be okay.
And so making it happen. This is the reason why I had Dara on today, Dr. Dara Hamilton, to discuss this because it's like we continue needing to be reminders about how we can set our minds for growth, for progression, no matter the challenges that we experience. I'm going to list some other tips as well because we need it every day. Things are coming at us every day. And I just was impressed beyond words in regards to just how Dara has dealt with this situation and just the mental fortitude. I'm always about mental fortitude, and you're the epitome of that. And continue to, like everybody was saying online, wish you continued healing and mental strength. Because that's all what it is. Like when mom was in the hospital, I kept telling her when she was, intubated, it's mind over minded medicine. So just stay positive, keep thinking about what you want to achieve, like you were saying, things that make you want to get up and be a part of life. So not stopping, continue to have goal setting, and the things that you're looking forward to being a part of. Those things will help with your recovery. Not just, we're talking about a health issue, but also in just every area of our life, because things can make you get stopped at times and stuck.
Right, and we don't want to minimize, or sorry, not minimize, but you don't want to not pay attention to the importance of social support and having those friends and having people to call. I will say that's still something that I am working on, being able to reach out to even the people know are there to come in and help me. But I did have those people, which makes a huge difference. Knowing that they're there made a difference. Having them actually be in my life, meaning come over to the house. One of my friends came over, changed the shower head, brought me pizza. Like people brought me pillows. When I was in the hospital, I remember just feeling so anxious and unable to sort of help my body relax after the surgery. And one of my friends, Dr. Grant, she's a psychologist, I was like, can you just rub my feet? And she did, and that helped. My system said, we can relax, so having that social support is part of being able to be healthy. And so I don't want people to feel that they have to be in things by themselves. And if they are, it's okay to work on developing your social support network and developing those relationships so that you are more held. In fact, our nervous system likes it. Our nervous system relaxes the best when it's with people that are safe rather than being isolated in difficult situations.
And I also want people to be cognizant of that everyone has something going on, and to be empathetic and have grace with people, because you have no idea what people are dealing with. And so, there might be a reaction or not a reaction that you think could be, whatever. Just have grace with people because you have no idea what they're dealing with, right? In regards to their life. And so just being mindful when we're interacting with everyone in your social work, in your working, your atmosphere, work atmosphere, even home atmosphere, just on your regular traversing, give people grace. And just, if they're having a moment, just let them be, because you have no idea what they may be experiencing, okay? And I wanted to ask you, one of my final questions is, like, how would you encourage someone to keep moving forward when life seems to be throwing everything at them? And then you gave some tips.
Yeah. That's it's hard. I think that my relationship with myself was a big way that I do that. And I would say that we want to start actively cultivating our relationship with ourselves, our ability to show up for ourselves, encourage ourselves, hold ourselves, love ourselves, and boost ourselves up and give ourselves those optimistic statements that say, I am here with you. It's very interesting because I feel like in the conversation I did refer to myself as we are going to do this. We are going to be okay.
Yes.
I do that a lot. Okay, good. Yeah, this is a very good coping strategy, you guys. It's not abnormal for us to think of ourselves in those parts. It's not abnormal for us to talk to ourselves and give thoughts to ourselves. In fact, it's very, very adaptive as long as we're giving ourselves thoughts that are encouraging and thoughts that are supportive and thoughts that are helpful, then that's an okay thing to do. And so if someone else is not with you at this moment, guess who's with me? I am with me. I am with me. Yeah. And that can shore you up. And so I would say cultivate being our own best friend, saying it's going to be okay. We are going to get through this. Let's figure out what we need to do next. Let's give ourselves a break. Let's rest a little bit. We can, if we had to, we can make a list. You guys, we can search the internet, use AI, whatever you have to do. You can come up with a list of things that help us regulate, a list of activities that support our health. Some of the things that you've already presented and talked about, they are out there. The idea is we are not doing them. So that's why I said that I had to be very intentional I pulled in that intentional coping, right? Where it's like I am intentionally pulling in these resources and I am intentionally doing these things. It's active coping, I guess that's the correct term. I am actively and intentionally and with conscious decision deciding to make this happen for my life, making it happen.
That's what I'm
right?
talking about.
I am consciously deciding to make this happen for
Because
my
you can let it slide, you can let it go and just let everything fall through, but you have to make it because you don't feel like it a lot of times, and that's the whole point of it. And I keep getting better to articulate what I mean by making it happen. Is like it's time you don't feel like it, there's things happening, and you can have an excuse. If that wasn't that could have been a major reason for not doing certain things. You did not let that be a reason or excuse. You was like, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I decide my life is going to be, and this is what we're going to do. Dara Hamilton, as she's saying, we is going to do or make happen. And so that's the whole point of today, is just encouraging those listening near and far to continue making it happen despite what may be occurring in your life at the moment, or around surrounding you. Do we have the ability and the strength to push ourselves through it, and just taking a moment every day by day, finding the strength, and be giving yourself permission to feel what you're feeling. Because we don't want to say not to have the feelings, or just to push myself. I'm not going to feel this. You
feel it. It's normal. Yeah.
And then know that every day you're making the choices to keep going, like she was saying, day by day, minute by minute. Pulling in those resources. When you get sick, you find in the Vicks, you find in the bush tea, doing this. So this is for your mind. You're finding the support system. You're acknowledging your feelings. You're connecting to your purpose. You're practicing self-compassion, and you're embracing people that can support you. Not that you're weak, but you want to stay strong. And so those are the things that we could say medicine for your mind to keep moving forward.
Yep.
Regardless. Okay, so this is we've had Dara Hamilton. Thank you so much. She's a psychologist. We've had like a guest. I remember I'm saying again that we've talked about theory, but this is really encouraging to hear how you've applied some of the things that you've shared on the show and with your clients, and wish you like everybody online. I'm sure those who's tuned in, continued healing and progression in navigating this new. Well, not new, because it was 2024. Well, it is still
right. This is the anniversary of everything. So I'm in the anniversary year, but it's all good.
Yeah, so I appreciate you so much for sharing and being so open with us and vulnerable. And so we appreciate you for tuning in. Anything you want to share before we close?
I know. I would just like to say thank you so much for having me on to talk about this. I hope that something has been helpful to people out there in terms of navigating their own difficult journeys. There are resources. I mean, I'll just say do a Google search. There are lots of resources if you're going through a similar journey as myself. There are lots of resources out there, local resources and national resources. So we don't want to go through difficult things alone, guys. For me, we are all on this planet together to love, support, and serve each other. And so as much as we can do that, let's try. I know we mess up now and then, but, we're all here trying to do our best. And I trust that. And so I thank you for having me on. And I thank you, everyone who has listened.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing with us. We appreciate you. And just knowing and trusting that things will improve, will and can improve. Okay? And that's the most important thing in making it happen. So we appreciate you for continuing to make it happen for yourself and then also for those in the community. All right. And thank you for tuning in to I Make It Happen with exception yours, Nykole Tyson. Thank you for joining us today. We'll connect again on next week, Wednesday, from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. Have an amazing rest of the day and the week. If you don't see something happening, create it. Be the change. And until next time, keep thinking outside the box, coloring outside the lines. And remember, it's about you, me, we. So make it happen.